Hello and welcome back. So in the last video, we set up a few things before we could actually begin to list from our application. So we set up these clients here. So the reservoir client will allow us to actually list our tokens. Let me move this out of the way to our desired marketplace. And the onboard client here is for actually allowing us to connect to the application. And then we put these inside of a Web3 context provider. So this is just a piece of code that wraps around the entire application, which allows us to connect our wallets and list to our desired marketplace. And we also set up some environment variables. So in our env.local, we have these here, which I'll include in the GitHub and description below. The inferior URL should be your own. But these three environment variables should be exactly what I've given you unless you have your own API key for Reservoir. So now let's actually create the user interface. So head on over to page.tsx. You're going to see what you're seeing on the right side of the screen here, which is just some boilerplate code. We don't want this. So let's delete everything after this div. So this main and this div, let's just delete that, hit save. Cool, now we got a blank screen. First one we're gonna have is a button to allow us to connect to our application. I guess that'll do. Thank you, Copilot. And we're gonna call it connect. Right, so we need to pass something into here. So this connect button here will allow us to obviously connect. Let's define our actual on-click function. So up here, we want to import from Web3 onboard. So let's get our wallet. Let's get the connect function and disconnect function equals use connect wallet. So what we're going to do instead of having a callback is we want to pass through something called handle connects. And then up here, let's define a function, handle connect here. And then we're going to check to see if the wallet is here. If there's no wallet, then connect, else disconnect. And then we need to pass through the wallet. So what this is saying is when we click on this button, we're going to call this handle connect function, check if they're connected. If they're not connected, connect them. If they are, then disconnect them. Simple, right? Let's hit save. Oh, we need to add in use client at the top. Use client. And there we go. We'll make this text black. So just to remind you, we are using Tailwind. So if you're not familiar with this syntax, I'll include a link to Tailwind in the description below. But yeah, so Tailwind basically just allows you to use CSS within HTML. So you don't have to add in a separate style sheet like page.css and then have these separate styles. It's all included in here. It looks annoying, but once you get used to it, it's great. Okay, so let's see if this works. Let's connect. There we go, MetaMask, and we're now connected. So let's add in price. This is going to be an input, type number. Can this finish the rest for me? And let's add in some styles as well. That'll do. So before we hit save, we know this is going to break because we haven't defined these two variables. So let's do this now. So let's define, there we go. So these are our state variables. So this means that whenever this value changes, the entire component gets re-rendered. Let's also add in handle price. Thank you. And thank you again. So this here is the typing required to convert the event. So in React, the onChange event sends through this event handler here of type HTML input element. And this is what we're expecting to receive in our set price method here. but we need to extract out the value itself. So it's e.target.value, and because this is a string, we must typecast it to number. And then, whoops, I did not mean to do that. I meant to put label. So now we have label and input. Get rid of that. There we go. Now it's in line. Let's add some gap to this as well. Gap 3. Gap 4. Next, we're going to add in another label called quantity. Beneath this, an input. Type will be of number. So this will mean that we can't input any strings or anything that's not a number. On change, it's going to be handle quantity, and the value will be quantity, and the class name, we want to copy this one up here, and there we go. Oh, we need to add in these state variables too. Come on, Copilot, there we go. And also the function handle quantity. Finally, we need to add in the button that will allow us to list our NFT. Let's give it some styling too. And there we go. So the way our app's going to work is we're going to connect our wallet, input a price, input a quantity, and then finally list our NFT. Okay, so this is all the JSX that we actually need for this tutorial. So let's add in the JavaScript that we need to list our NFT. First of all, we want to define our useEffects. Now, if you're not too sure what a useEffect is in React, these are functions that execute on certain conditions during a component's lifecycle. So for this first useEffect, we are reacting to the wallet itself. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. So let's pass through a dependency called wallet, which is the wallet object here. And then inside of this useEffect, we'll define a function called init. And it's going to say if wallet, then we're going to instantiate an ethers provider of new ethers.providers. Whoops. So we need to import ethers.providers. And then we want web3 provider. Then in here, we pass through wallet.provider. So this gets us the actual, let me just make this bigger. So this gets us the provider object from the connected wallet, which allows us to get the signer. So we have const signer equals ethers provider dot get signer. And now we need to set this signer so we don't lose it. So over here, let's create another constant called signer. Set signer equals useState. And now we're going to need to pass through the type of this. So it's ethers.providers.json RPC signer. Inside of here. Awesome. Now just to remind you, we are using ethers 5, not ethers 6. And as of this recording, this ReservoirSDK will not work with ethers version 6. So now we have this set. We need to actually set the signer like so and import useEffect. Hit save. You'll see why this is needed in just a moment. Next, we will create the function to list our NFTs. So async function list, or just to be consistent with the others, handle list. And we want to check to see if the signer object exists. So if there's no signer, then return. For demo purposes, I want to show you in the terminal just how good error handling is. and how useful it is for development. So let's return a console.error. Let's call it no signer. So you'll see this in the console if you try to call this function without being connected to the application. So await get client from ReservoirSDK, and then we access the actions object and call the listToken method. Now this method takes a variety of inputs. We're going to be using ERC 1155, so we can demonstrate to you the quantity field, so you can list different quantities. But this works very similarly for ERC 721s. So listings is an array of object, and we pass through token, where you put in your address, so the contract address of the token followed by the token ID. That is the syntax. Oops, should just be one. So it'll be like that. So we're like contract address, token ID. And then we pass through something called way price. We're going to use this syntax here. And we need to do .toString again, because this returns a big number. Now this parameter expects a string, so this is in way, which is 10 to the 18, and it expects a string. However, our price is a number, so we convert it to string first, and this parse ether returns a big number, so we have to convert that to a string as well. And the next parameter is orderbook. We will be using, OpenSea. And finally, order kind. Seaport version 1.5. This is the latest version of Seaport. And actually, finally, is our quantity. Now, what is this error saying? Oh, wallet. Okay, so we need to add in the next parameter, which I was going to do anyway. So outside of the array, we add in our wallet and pass through the signer. But look, the signer does not work by itself because it expects a VM wallet. So you'll need to import adapt ether signer, and there we go. And if you want, you can add in this on progress and receive updates. Right, so let's actually pass through a real contract address. Now I've already prepared. You need to head over to testnet OpenSea. Head over to testnets.opensea.io. Connect your account. You have to sign some signature message. Don't worry, it's all safe. It's a testnet anyway, so you can't get rugged in here. Once you're signed in, head over to your account, which it is account. I want to go to profile. Great. Now these are some test NFTs that I've already prepared to be messing with. I'm going to be using this one here. So the way you do this is you head over to this URL on the top, and you'll see the token ID, which is 1. So for ERC 155s, they all have the same ID. Oh, I keep doing this by accident. And then in the URL, you'll see this contract address here. Copy this, paste it in here, and then paste the token, then put the token ID that you want. So this is the contract address for this NFT, and token ID 1, again, because they're ERC 155s, they all have the same ID. Now, there's one last thing I want to add, which is another useEffect. So after this useEffect, oh, I just realized you haven't called this. So init, there we go. After this useEffect, let's make another one. And we want to call the event listener. Now the event listener will actually give us updates on whether or not the listing was successful or unsuccessful. So your application can react to this change. So get clients.add event listener. The params are event and chain ID. And we want to use a switch case here. So switch event.name. So we'll list, so we care about the event name. So what kind of event it was. Case listing underscore complete. So these are typed, by the way. Perform an action here. So we're going to create a state variable called isSuccess. Okay, we set isSuccess true. And in the other case, we have listing error and set isSuccess false, and we break it. And one last thing, in this useEffect, because we are creating an event listener, we need to clear them on each re-render so we don't cause memory leaks. So in here, you want to have this callback, which is executed whenever the component is unmounted or gets killed. So we call getClient.clear event listeners. We have passed through handle list, hit save. That should all be good to go now. We need to connect our wallet again. So connect wallet. Our price is 2. Let's just do it again. 2. Quantity is 20. And now we hit list. Great. Sign this message. Listing complete. Here we've put the isSuccess inside of this HTML so we can output whether or not it's been successfully listed. It has been successful, so in your app you can react to these changes. Let's head over to OpenSea testnet. It's 0.1 ETH and we've listed 20 of them. So that's how you list to a chosen marketplace from your own application. And there's so many things you can do with this. You could have your own marketplace that uses OpenSea under the hood. You could have a platform that allows people to create their own NFTs and then list from your application. You know, there's a lot of different ways you could leverage this technology to your business needs.